You think you know Bitcoin, but its story runs deeper than you might imagine.
Deeper, yeah.
Today, we're going to unearth the surprisingly long history behind this revolutionary technology. We're talking decades before Bitcoin even existed.
It's fascinating how Bitcoin emerged from this convergence of ideas and events. It wasn't a sudden invention,
Right.
but rather a culmination of years
Yeah.
of experimentation failures
Yeah.
and a persistent desire for a better monetary system.
Totally.
All those threads come together beautifully in the Genesis book by Aaron van Wirdum.
Right. We're using that book as our guide today.
Yeah.
Get ready to explore everything from the wild early days of digital currencies
Oh, yeah.
to the rise of cryptography and even a bit of transhumanist philosophy.
That's right.
It's a wild ride.
What's remarkable is how seemingly unrelated events, separated by decades, suddenly click into place as you delve into this history.
Oh, for sure.
We'll see how the rise and fall of a digital gold-backed currency in the 90s,
Okay.
the theories of a Nobel Prize-winning economist from the early 20th century,
Right.
and the work of privacy-obsessed cryptographers all played a crucial role.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the story of e-gold.
Yeah.
Imagine, back in the late 90s, a system where you could transact online using digital tokens backed by actual gold.
Uh-huh.
This wasn't just some small experiment either.
Oh, no.
Millions of transactions were happening.
Millions. E-gold was the brainchild of Douglas Jackson,
Okay.
who envisioned a fairer monetary system free from government interference.
Right.
It grew incredibly fast,
Yeah.
but it ultimately faced a challenge it couldn't overcome: the U.S. government.
So what exactly did the government do to shut down e-gold? It couldn't have been easy to dismantle a global online currency?
Right.
Yeah.
They invoked a number of regulations, particularly those related to money transmitting. E-gold was deemed an unlicensed money transmitter and accused of facilitating illicit activities. Ultimately, the government seized the gold reserves,
Wow.
and Jackson even faced legal repercussions.
It seems like a classic example of a disruptive innovation clashing with the established order. It makes you wonder how those involved with e-gold might have influenced later attempts to create digital currencies. Did they retreat, or did this embolden them?
It's a question worth considering. Did the crackdown on e-gold inspire more resilient systems?
Right.
Now, let's rewind even further to the early 20th century to meet Friedrich Hayek.
Okay.
This brilliant economist had a deep distrust of government-controlled money,
Okay.
fueled by his firsthand experience with hyperinflation in Austria after World War I.
So Hayek was shaped by those economic upheavals. How did that influence his views on money?
He believed government intervention in the monetary system inevitably leads to problems like inflation. In fact, he called inflation the most important single factor in that destruction of that generation's economic order, likening inflation to organized robbery, or a particularly insidious form of counterfeit.
Wow.
He saw a free market in money with competition among different currencies as the solution.
His ideas resonate strongly with the principles behind Bitcoin,
Yeah.
even though he was writing decades before its invention. It's almost like he predicted the need for a decentralized, non-governmental currency. But wouldn't a free market of currencies be chaotic?
Well, that's the debate, isn't it? Hayek argued the best money would emerge organically, chosen freely by people rather than imposed top-down. He believed this would lead to a more stable and ethical system. Now, to connect this to the digital world, we need to talk about the internet and cryptography.
Right, because you can't have secure digital transactions without cryptography.
That's right.
It's the backbone of everything we do online. Tell me, how did this all get started?
Enter Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman,
Okay.
two pioneers who revolutionized secure communication.
Right.
Before their groundbreaking work on public key cryptography,
All right.
secure communication online was practically impossible.
Because you'd have to physically exchange keys beforehand.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work for a global network.
No. Yeah.
So how did they solve this?
Public key cryptography uses a pair of keys, a public key to encrypt a message, and a private key to decrypt it. It's like having a secure mailbox with two locks. Anyone can drop a letter in the public slot, but only the person with the private key can open the box.
So you no longer need to meet in person to securely exchange information.
Right.
That's a game changer for online transactions.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this seemingly esoteric mathematical concept enable the entire world of e-commerce and online banking.
Absolutely, and it's a core component of how Bitcoin transactions are secured.
Yeah.
But there's another piece of the puzzle. Proving the existence of a digital document at a specific point in time.
Okay.
This might seem unrelated, but it's crucial for building a reliable transaction history.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
In the digital world, how do you prove when something was created or modified?
Yeah.
It's not like a physical document with a date stamp.
Right. That's the challenge Scott Stornetta and Stuart Haber tackled.
Okay.
They developed a system for digital timestamping
Okay.
using a concept called a Merkle tree.
Okay, Merkle tree. It sounds like something out of Tolkien, but break it down for me. What is it and how does it work?
Imagine a family tree, but instead of people, it's digital documents.
Okay.
Each document has a unique fingerprint created by a hash function.
Okay.
These fingerprints are then combined in pairs,
Right.
and their combined fingerprint is moved up the tree.
Okay.
This process continues until you reach a single root at the top, representing the entire set of documents.
So any change to even a single document would ripple up the tree, changing the root fingerprint.
Exactly.
It's like a tamper-proof historical record, kind of like a blockchain, right?
Precisely. Bitcoin would later adapt this Merkle tree concept to create its tamper-proof transaction ledger. It's another example of seemingly unrelated innovations coming together.
And this is just the beginning. We're about to delve into a world that might seem even more unexpected, the world of the extropians.
Yes.
This transhumanist group may seem out there, but they played a surprising role in the history of Bitcoin.
They sure did. Now we're stepping into the world of the extropians.
Okay.
A group that embraced technology's potential to push human boundaries.
Okay.
Think life extension, space colonization,
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence, the whole 9 yards.
Extropians. Okay, I'm picturing people in silver jumpsuits planning to upload their consciousness to the cloud. How does this tie into the history of Bitcoin?
It's not as out there as you might think.
Okay.
The extropians, led by figures like Max More,
Okay.
were deeply interested in the ideas of Friedrich Hayek,
Right.
particularly his views on free markets and the need for a monetary system outside of government control. Remember, this was the early internet era,
Right.
a time of utopian ideals and a strong belief in the power of technology to reshape society.
So they were tech-savvy Hayekians, essentially. That's not a combination you hear every day.
Right.
What were they actually doing to bring these ideas to life?
One key figure to remember is Nick Szabo,
Oh.
a computer scientist and extropian,
Mm-hmm.
who was obsessed with the idea of creating a digital currency that mimicked the properties of gold,
Right.
especially its scarcity.
Wait, so the inspiration for a digital currency was gold. That seems a bit ironic, considering Bitcoin is often seen as an alternative to gold.
It's all about understanding the evolution of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Szabo recognized that gold's value came in part from the difficulty of producing it,
Okay.
that inherent unaffordable costliness.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to replicate that in the digital world where
Right.
things can be easily copied.
Okay, so he wanted to create digital gold.
Yeah.
How did he go about that?
He came up with a concept called BitGold,
Okay.
which used a proof-of-work system similar to Adam Back's Hashcash, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
Instead of miners digging for gold, they'd use computing power to solve complex math problems, and the solution would be like a piece of digital gold.
I'm seeing the parallels to Bitcoin here.
Yeah.
So Szabo was essentially laying the groundwork for a decentralized digital currency with a controlled supply.
Exactly. His vision was remarkably similar to how Bitcoin would eventually work,
Yeah.
including a system where the difficulty of creating new units would adjust over time to maintain a predictable supply.
Right.
But Szabo wasn't the only one thinking about digital cash.
Okay.
Around the same time, Wei Dai proposed a system called B-money.
So multiple people were converging on similar ideas at the same time. What was special about B-money?
Yes.
Did it also use proof of work?
Like BitGold, B-money relied on a distributed ledger to track ownership.
Okay.
But Dai was particularly concerned with what's known as the Byzantine generals problem.
Byzantine generals problem. That sounds intense. I need you to break that one down for me.
Imagine a group of generals surrounding a city. They can only communicate through messengers,
Okay.
some of whom might be traitors deliberately spreading false information. How do they agree on a plan of attack?
Right.
Especially when they can't be sure who to trust.
So it's about achieving consensus when communication is unreliable and there's a potential for deception.
Yeah.
But how does this apply to digital currencies?
In a decentralized system like B-money or Bitcoin,
Right.
there's no central authority to verify transactions or prevent fraud. Dai was grappling with the challenge of how to achieve consensus in such a system,
Right.
ensuring everyone agrees on the same transaction history and prevents things like double spending.
That sounds like a major hurdle. Did Dai come up with a solution to this Byzantine general's problem?
Unfortunately, no. He eventually became disillusioned,
Okay.
believing that a truly secure and decentralized digital cash system might be impossible.
Wow.
But his work, along with Szabo's BitGold,
Right.
was crucial in laying the groundwork for Bitcoin by identifying the key challenges. They essentially cleared the path for what was to come.
It's interesting how some of the most brilliant minds were also the most skeptical.
Right.
But thankfully, not everyone gave up on the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, who kept pushing the boundaries even as others were losing hope?
That brings us to Hal Finney,
Okay.
a dedicated cypherpunk and a true believer in the power of cryptography to empower individuals.
Right.
Finney was deeply involved in the early cypherpunk movement, advocating for privacy and digital freedom.
So he was right at the heart of these emerging ideas.
Yeah.
Not just a techie, but someone with a deep understanding of these social and political implications.
Absolutely. And he was a builder as well as a thinker.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, Finney created a system called Reusable Proofs of Work, or RPOW.
Okay.
It was another attempt to create a digital cash system based on the concept of proof of work,
Right.
similar to Hashcash and BitGold.
So he was actively trying to solve the challenges that others had identified. How did RPOW work in practice?
Users would use their computers to solve complex problems and generate unique tokens that could then be traded for goods and services. It was a way to create digital scarcity and a verifiable transaction history.
It sounds like Finney was really pushing the envelope.
He was.
But I imagine there were still hurdles to overcome. Did RPOW ever gain any traction?
Despite its ingenuity, RPOW faced technical challenges.
Okay.
Especially in preventing forgery and maintaining security at scale. Ultimately, it didn't achieve widespread adoption.
That's too bad. But it sounds like his work, like Dai's and Szabo's, contributed to the growing body of knowledge that would eventually lead to Bitcoin. It's like they were all paving the way, step by step.
Exactly. Each attempt,
Right.
even the ones that didn't fully succeed, brought us closer to the solution.
Right.
And that brings us to the final chapter of our deep dive.
Okay.
The emergence of Bitcoin and the enigmatic Satoshi Nakamoto. Picture this. It's 2008. The global financial system is teetering on the brink of collapse.
Yeah.
Trust in banks is plummeting.
Right.
And then quietly, a white paper appears
Okay.
on an obscure cryptography mailing list.
It's like the universe was setting the stage for Bitcoin to emerge. Talk about perfect timing. But who was this Satoshi Nakamoto? A lone genius.
Yeah.
A shadowy group. It's a mystery that endures to this day.
The true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto remains elusive, which only adds to the mystique of Bitcoin.
Right.
But what we do know is
Yeah.
that this person or group possessed a profound understanding of cryptography, economics, and the shortcomings of all those earlier attempts to create digital cash.
So what made Bitcoin different? Why did it succeed where others had failed? It's clearly more than just good timing.
Bitcoin ingeniously combined elements from previous digital cash schemes, things like proof of work, distributed ledgers, and cryptographic security.
Yeah.
But it also introduced some key innovations that addressed those fundamental challenges that had stumped others.
All right, lay it on me. What are these innovations? What was the secret sauce that made Bitcoin work?
Remember the Byzantine generals problem? That challenge of reaching consensus in a decentralized system without a central authority.
Right.
Bitcoin cracked the code with a revolutionary solution.
Okay, I'm all ears. How did Bitcoin solve this problem that had stymied so many brilliant minds before?
It all comes down to the blockchain, a public and transparent ledger of all transactions, constantly updated and verified by a distributed network of computers. Imagine a digital version of a public notary, recording every transaction for everyone to see.
So it's not just about recording transactions, it's about making it virtually impossible to tamper with that record, right?
Exactly. The blockchain is public, and every block is cryptographically linked to the previous one. To alter the transaction history, you'd have to rewrite the entire chain, which would require an astronomical amount of computing power.
That's brilliant. It's a self-regulating, tamper-proof system. No wonder governments and central banks didn't see it coming.
Think back to Hal Finney's RPOW. One of its biggest challenges was preventing forgery. Bitcoin's proof-of-work system solved that beautifully,
Right.
creating a decentralized and trustless way to verify transactions and maintain the integrity of the ledger.
It's incredible how Satoshi Nakamoto took these existing ideas, refined them, and combined them in such a revolutionary way. But there's one more crucial element, right? The fixed supply of Bitcoin.
You're absolutely right. Unlike traditional fiat currencies, which can be printed endlessly by central banks, Bitcoin has a finite and predetermined supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins.
Oh.
And the rate at which new Bitcoins are created decreases over time.
It's like digital scarcity baked into the code.
Yeah.
No central authority can manipulate the supply, just like with gold. Which brings us full circle. We started with e-gold,
Right.
a digital currency backed by real gold that was ultimately shut down.
Yeah.
And now we have Bitcoin, digital gold, designed to be resistant to government control.
It speaks to the enduring human desire for sound money,
Yes.
free from the whims of central authorities.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the culmination of decades of experimentation and innovation.
Yeah.
Ideas once considered fringe have now entered the mainstream.
This has been an amazing journey. From hyperinflation in early 20th century Austria to the rise of cryptography and those early online communities, it's incredible how all these threads weave together to create the tapestry of Bitcoin.
And it leaves us with profound questions.
For sure.
How will Bitcoin continue to evolve?
Right.
Will it reshape the global financial system?
Yeah.
What are the implications for individual freedom and the balance of power?
It's a story that challenges our assumptions about money, about technology, about the very nature of trust. And the most exciting part is this story is far from over.
So keep exploring.
Right.
Keep learning. Keep diving deep. There's a whole universe of knowledge waiting to be discovered.
For sure.
Right here in the history of Bitcoin.
Who knows what insights you'll uncover as you continue your journey. The future is waiting to be written.
That's right.
And it's going to be fascinating to see how it unfolds. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious.